I wanted to do this video like months ago. It was supposed to go hand in hand with that one, but life. So I worked on a list of pretty good stuff for you today to make up for it, with a lot of before and after comparisons, so you can see quickly what we're talking about and if that's something for you or not. I'm not gonna talk about how to install mods here, obviously, you have the aforementioned video for this, and it's still up to date. Today we are talking about all the good stuff to make your old vanilla anomaly a bit more exciting. But before we start, I want to say something that might be a bit controversial, but hey, I truly believe in what I'm going to say. I'm not just saying this to ruffle some feathers, so here we go. For most people, not everyone, but most people, my advice would be don't try to mod Anomaly, just play Gamma. I know, but Gamma will most likely give you everything you're looking for. Better graphics, better sound, better gameplay and quality of life, better balance, better immersion, all the new shiny and cool stuff you can imagine, everything. In one package that runs very well considering the amount of stuff it has, and pretty easy to install, far easier than installing hundreds of mods and dealing with all the conflicts and compatibility issues that comes with it by yourself. And then, with this very strong foundation, you can tweak and change whatever you don't like to your liking. Gamma is extremely modular, and it's very rare for me to see someone having an issue or a complaint with Gamma that cannot be fixed by simply changing a setting, turning off or on a mod, or something generally extremely simple. Because again, that's the beauty of Gamma, it was built with complete modularity in mind. So to sum up, yes, there's always gonna be some edge cases, like your computer really cannot run it or something like that, but for most people, customizing Gamma into a state that's perfect for you will be immensely easier than building your own Anomaly bot pack. That's it. This is the end of my love letter to Grok. Let's go back to Anomaly modding. So let's say you want to build your own modded Anomaly, for whatever reason, it doesn't really matter. For fun, to learn how to mod, to have your own version of the game that's only yours, or like me, simply because you like the simplicity of Anomaly sometimes and you just want a little sprinkle of extra things on top of it. They're all good reasons anyway. So first, let's talk about where to find Anomaly mods. I mean, technically we should call them add-ons, but you get what I mean. The obvious answer is of course ModDB. Personally, I'm a recently updated tab kind of guy, because I know the stuff in here will be working with the latest Anomaly version, and you can find a lot of gems in here that are not too popular. Or don't be a weirdo and go to the popular today or all times like everybody else. It's very obvious stuff, but my advice here is instead of simply browsing the hundreds of add-ons available, especially if you're getting started with modding, what I like to do is going back to Gamma or Escape from Pripyat or even Nomad, I mean any big mod pack that already exists, and look at them as a big curated list of add-ons that you can get inspiration from. If you have add-ons that are used in every single big mod pack, generally there's a reason for it, and you will probably want to use them too. Gamma has a very nice page with all the add-ons it's using listed, EFP you can find a file with everything in it, and so on. It's always interesting to see what the big boys are using, because it's very easy to get lost on all the stuff in ModDB. With all of that out of the way, this was the longest intro ever, sorry. Let's get started on what I personally use, mods and add-ons that if are not here, I really feel something is missing. So yeah, basically the stuff I cannot play without anymore. To me, STALKER is atmosphere, first and foremost. So we're gonna talk visuals and sound first to give a real mood to the zone. And I always start with Hippo's atmospherics. I tried a lot of other graphics overhauls, but I always come back to this one. It's basically an easy way to get the latest visual upgrades like SSS, enhanced shaders and grading, with a big preset that does its own magic and completely transform the zone into a moodier, grittier, more immersive and much better looking place. I generally don't tinker with it too much and keep it simple. I just like my zone sad and depressing, so I like lowering the saturation a little bit, but you can go very deep into the customization. Even add reshade on top of it if you want, texture packs, a lot of stuff. Hippo has a really good video covering everything and how to install in details. I will link it in the description, definitely check it out. But just with this mod, we're already in a much better looking place. Next, we are playing Stalker. Anomalies are at the core of the game. We want them to look as good as possible, so here comes Arrival Anomalies by S.E.M.I.T.o.N.E. You will have a lot of options when installing the mod, from subtle enhancements to much more obvious changes, so there's something for everybody's taste. But overall, it makes all the anomalies in the game look absolutely amazing. Scary and mesmerizing at the same time, you almost want to touch them to see what happens, and I mean, that's what I call immersion. It's an absolute must-have of a mod, in my opinion, that pairs very well with special anomalies, and you can add dynamic anomalies too if you want even more on top of it. They all look great and really add to the general atmosphere of the zone. And don't forget that through mod configuration menu, you can tweak absolutely everything. How many do you want, how often do they spawn, and so on. After that, you can add a ton of effects, particles, explosions, impacts, blood spatters. I mean, the sky is the limit. Technically, what your computer can run is actually the limit. The more stuff you add, the more it will start eating at your FPS slowly, so yeah, just keep this in mind. And generally, I stop here for the graphics. You can change the NPCs models and textures, mutants, whatever, you do you. I like to keep it simple. Now let's talk about sound, because sound is as important as the visuals to create a great atmosphere. Solarin's Soundscape Overhaul has been a staple for years, and for a good reason. It's just really good. It completely revamps the soundscape of the zone to make it more realistic and immersive. Adding Desmond's horror overhaul on top of it makes it even better, redesigning a lot of events and encounters to really make you feel like you're playing a horror game. And if you like to have some background music when playing, I can't recommend Wojak ambient music back enough, which fits perfectly with the atmosphere of the zone. By the way, it's 3 add-ons that Gamma uses too. We go back to what I was telling you, there's no need to reinvent the wheel sometimes, and just go check what the big boys are doing. Exactly like the visuals, these couple of add-ons are a very strong base, and then you can build whatever you want on top of it. I actually like all the dark signal audio too, but at some point you have to make some choices. If you want to go deeper, Better Sound for Anomaly by Grok is a must too. The GSRS sound mod for weapons is also a staple, just like the Soundscape Overhaul. But yeah, start with these 3 add-ons, at least that's what I do, and then you can build whatever you want on top of it. They're already enough to completely change the feel of the zone. Okay, let's move to gameplay and quality of life, because Anomaly is by design a mod where you're gonna roam, spend a lot of time, and kinda do your own adventure, so all the quality of life add-ons are an absolute must to remove a bit the friction in a lot of mechanics and make the whole experience a bit smoother. Let's start by making our character feel better, more realistic. With a couple of very simple mods, we can go from old and clunky to something that looks, plays, and feels much better. Camera Reanimation Project is a must that reworks all the animations when jumping, crouching, leaning, and so much more. It gives some weight, some inertia to your character, and it actually pairs very well with the new Walk and Run add-on. So your movement and NPCs don't look so silly anymore when they're like just walking or running around. You can add the ledge grabbing and first-person visible body to that if you want some extra, and suddenly Anomaly feels like a modern game almost, in terms of what you can do and how you navigate the world. It completely changes everything. And we can achieve the same immersion with weapons with 2 simple add-ons, Sway and Cover Tilt. And suddenly everything looks and feels so much more realistic. Weapons have weight, inertia, exactly like your character. The longer they are, the more you feel it. It's subtle, but it really does make a difference. And again, there's dozens of other mods, animations, rework that you can add on top of this, but I like to use this as a base always, and then you build whatever you want on top of it. For example, adding the food, drug and drinks animation next would be a pretty obvious step, so now we literally have a revamp of every single action you can do in the game pretty much, but yeah, you get the idea. And now the quality of life rabbit hole. There's so many options here, but let's build a strong foundation that you can improve with whatever you want after. So sorting plus to keep your inventory cleaner, organized, and make item favorites, it's a must. a chance, you-chan, whatever quality of life bundle that adds a ton of little useful details and information that I cannot play without anymore. Mainly being able to see items in nearby stashes for fetch quest and marking these items in your inventory so you don't have to look for them in all your junk, how many uses your consumables have left, and so on. Believe me, you pair this with S.T.A.L.K.E.R.'s PDA task board that lets you grab missions from nearby NPCs directly from your PDA without having to go talk to everybody, and it almost becomes fun to do hundreds of silly fetch missions. Then you of course have Nitpicker's mod pack that has been a staple since forever, fixing and staple or staple? Anyways, fixing and improving a ton of little things, like a lot of frustrating issues. It comes with a faux mod so you can pick what you want and don't want when you install it. There's a lot more, but generally I start with these ones, it covers most of the basics. And then there's a couple last things I like to install. Jabber's Iron Man roguelite. I made a whole video about this add-on, that's how much I love it. It adds a roguelite game mode where you lose your loot when you die and have to go get it back with a lot of hurdles along the way. Probably my favorite way to play the game after Iron Man. Then we have hideout furniture because I love building my own little stalker base and store everything nicely. There's a lot of expansions available too if you want to add even more items to craft and go full role playing. The perk-based artifact add-on that adds a ton of artifacts with cool and useful perks, like you can see it everywhere and there's a reason for it, it's very good and it makes hunting for artifacts and using them even more interesting. And that's it pretty much, that's my base anomaly build. I don't really need more to spend time in the zone and enjoy myself when I want to keep things simple. By the way, that's the order of all the mods in MO2 I've been talking about if you want to replicate it, and it runs without issues. After that you can do whatever you want. Generally people will add weapon packs, change the icons, the textures, the mutants, the NPCs, add a skill system, rework the economy. I mean, sky is the limit, and I actually cover a lot of this add-on in my previous videos that you can see here. But again, if you want all this extra stuff, personally, I just go play Gamma. I'm not gonna spend days figuring out conflicts, crashes, tweaking everything to end up with a shitty Gamma light that's less stable, less optimized, and with a lot of issues. I like to keep my anomaly builds very simple. This video felt a lot like a Gamma advertisement, but no. I mean, it's a good foundation to build your own anomaly mod pack, and then you can add a ton of things on top of it. Maybe I will do like another one with like more specific mods that are very cool too. We'll see. But that's a good start to get started. Okay, get out of here.